I'd like to talk a little bit about spiritual attacks. It's a murky world that we often don't talk about. I mean, I remember growing up, whenever we would talk about things that sounded spooky, things that sounded mysterious, things that were an enigma, it was uncomfortable. And I'd go to bed at night and, I'd be frightened because I'd be talking about things that I couldn't touch, I couldn't feel, I couldn't see. I think it's perhaps not different for many people. Maybe some people, let me not say many people, where spiritual things are concerned. But you know that I always go back to the word. What does the word say about spirituality? What does it say about spiritual attacks? Because we are spirit people, ultimately. Yeah. I'm a spirit man, you are a spirit man. And this question that I have in my mind has been brought about because, as you know, recently I talked about this month being a representation of 1 year since I took on a new journey with Christ, a renewed journey with Christ. And I can tell you that in this time, it hasn't been smooth sailing on all fronts. I have faced many spiritual attacks. And I reckon we face those spiritual attacks because the devil knows. He knows that we're a threat. And for as long as we remain a threat, then we remain a target. So we need to make sure that we arm ourselves with the word, because that's the only way in which you can defeat the devil, is with the word. Remember, that's what Christ did when he was tempted by the devil. He defeated the devil with the word. And it's no different for you and I, friends. I want to read from Ephesians. And I think it puts into context exactly what we are up against. But what we are up against is not insurmountable. But we need to know what we are up against. Ephesians 6, verse 12 in the NIV says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood." So we wrestle against things that are not flesh and blood. And that means that we have to be able to elevate our spirituality, because you cannot be wrestling in the physical against something that is spiritual. And I have been facing quite a number of spiritual attacks. And usually the telltale sign for me is when I experience those attacks when I'm sleeping. But I know that the one who neither sleeps nor slumbers fights for me. So we do not fight alone. God fights with us. Our angels, our guardian angels, fight with us. I think if we were shown a visual of all the things that were meant to happen to us in darkness, and how God protected us from those things, and how when you were meant to take a left turn, for some reason you took a right turn, and if you took a left turn, you were going to face your demise. There are many attacks that we face on a daily basis. And it is a realization that where we find ourselves, where we are now, we cannot be without the cover of the blood of Jesus Christ. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. But I rest easy knowing that I do not fight alone. For the battle is not mine. But I have to do my part. And how do we begin to do our part? One, for me, it is being aware that our struggle is not against flesh and blood. So whether you are in strife with your loved ones or you are facing difficulties at work, you've got to kneel down. Kneel down, pray, talk to your Father. Talk to your Father. Pray, read the Word, because you have to be able to arm yourself. When the devil says you are beneath, you need to be able to say to the devil, I'm above and not beneath. You need to be able to say to the devil, I am the head and not the tail. So I hope that out of this segment today of the restoration series, you take out of it that you are in a battle. And in this battle, you have to arm yourself with the Word and prayer. Thank you so much for having joined me. My name is Sylvester Mashilo.